Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Happy November if I haven't seen you since. This is the crew today. I am going to share my screen. I was like, I've got an agenda because I wrote down an agenda at City Council. Did I put it in a Google Doc and share it? No, and apologize. But here were my thoughts and takeaways from, so big celebrations first is on City Council on Monday, got the loans across the finish line. So just a huge round of applause to all the people that have, including us, but there's been a lot of legwork, and it wasn't too much fanfare because it's serious, but I don't know. This group knows.
I just want to say, and I didn't say this Monday night, it was probably said, but to go from the city allowing to take a 1.8 at the top and bringing that down to 1.3, to me is just incredible.
Yeah.
So, that right there speaks to the work that Chip has been doing and the council's been doing, and really, really, really looking at all of that. And that, I hope that the people in the city understand that to me, that was just huge to me. So
yeah, agreed. Shows that we're looking at the details. We're not doing it blindly, definitely grounded in some real numbers. So and also with that, we have been meeting for 7 months, and so I just want to say thank you for your consistent participation. Whether it's Friday afternoons or first thing on a Wednesday morning, I really do appreciate the dedication and the time that we do spend together, and the content that we're able to move through. And often if we're just soundboarding it, it's just so helpful. So even for those that, I know Hal isn't here today because he had something, and so did Chip, but yeah, they're a part of that. And so hope they feel my appreciation. As far as topics, I was thinking we do need to talk about our budget plan and how the task force can assist with that. Recommendations, remaining thoughts from the audit. Are there anything that sparked some recommendations? There's a couple things on the tip of my mind, but I'll get to that when we talk about it. And also the chart of accounts, and now we can, and a citizen 2 meetings ago brought up hey, we haven't done a deep dive of the expenses, to which I hear that, and I think that's important, and that's something we do need to do. And now with the restructuring of the chart of accounts, can that be done more effectively? We can tell that there's been now more labels. We just have better understanding, and so I think now we are actually able to look into things. So I don't have an idea of, or a strict notion of how we should approach that, but those are the things I kind of want to talk about and brainstorm with y'all today, and maybe form a little focus committee or something. So these are my things. Any additions or deletions to this?
Can I add a couple? I should let y'all know I'm going to have to switch over to my phone in a few minutes and drive to Barton because I'm meeting with their select board at 9 a.m. this morning. But a couple of other things on my mind. Actually, the highest priority for me right now is an immediate reach out, but I'm wondering if, Carter, you might be willing to do to Ken Lingy and Michael Vaughn at the Vermont Bond Bank, because now that's a month away. Right, I understand it's like the first week of December, we've got to have an application into them for the 25-year note that we're hoping to arrange to pick up on the note that we did in anticipation of bond for the water tower. So that one, if you could make the first step on that, I would be really grateful.
Yes.
All right. Then the second thing on my mind is the work that you've started and been pretty dogged about pursuing that I want to make sure we don't lose, which is the various policies that we need to come back to and try and get across the finish line as well. So the agenda remains tall, but you're right. I mean, I just can't do anything except celebrate this week, because given where we were 6 months ago, it's really a remarkable thing that we managed the cash flow crisis.
Nice.
And I just want to say, piggyback on what Rick just said about the policies. I want to appreciate Carter and Carrie for stepping up to the 2 policies that you're working on currently. I recognize that the rest of us have sort of backed off of that. And then in all actuality, the fact is things like a credit card policy really needs to be structured by the people who are, in the city and know what is happening with those. I'm hoping to step up a little bit more as we start looking at other things, but I do appreciate you guys stepping up to those 2 that needed to be done.
Thanks. I'm gonna find that. I think I got the big document that Carrie made with all of the financial policies in it. Yes, I do. So, okay. Sorry, team. Gonna share with others. Go ahead.
Carrie should give you all an update because she's done a lot of work just in the last couple of days on the budgeting process for this year. That kind of trying to translate the chart of accounts into a spreadsheet that will be usable for the department heads. So she can give you an update on that because she knows it and I really don't. And then the last thing is just to say that I feel pretty confident about the review of our spending in the current fiscal year and ensuring that we're staying on or below budget. And that's a moving target like it always is, right? Things happen that you don't expect and other things don't happen that you did expect. And so with the new chart of accounts, I'm actually pretty hopeful about that. And we are watching really closely to make sure the places where we're underspending exceed the places where we are overspending on the budget this year. So I just want to give you all some assurance. I think that's largely the work of the department heads this year, is to try and stay on top of that on a daily or at least a weekly basis.
Mm-hmm.
Great. All righty. So noted to do this. And I actually also still have to about the policy work. Okay, so should we jump to the recommendations from the audit and also talk about like what policies have probably become more urgent than others? And I'm going to drop the link in the chat. Does that sound good for folks? Okay, thanks Susie for the nod. Okay. That is, okay, let's stop sharing this one. So I put a link in the chat just so that everybody has access to it, or at least in this meeting. And it's a very long Google Doc. And I can also share it on my screen. I don't know if that's helpful. I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger. I kind of like the chapters on the side. So there's a lot here. Anybody want to volunteer to say, hey, this one, for example, I know that we are going to be managing debt. I think that has been coming up a lot. I mean, especially as we have continued conversations with loans, bond anticipation notes, and also having a debt schedule. I know that is something Carrie has been working on. So this is something I'm leaning towards, but I'm not sure if people want to just take a minute and look through these and then come back with your thoughts, or if we want to go with them together.
It's a lot to read through to then gather enough to have a reasonable discussion if this is what you're planning on for a quote policy.
Right. I meant like focusing on the topic. So we can just go through them together. So accounting, auditing, and financial reporting policy guidance. I think this one's a little too late. And also we have been actively doing better on this one. So this one's like less of a priority in my eyes, but if you guys think differently, then we've got model capital program and budget policies. model cash receipts, petty cash return check policy guidance. We've done that one. This one I feel like is important, the debt management policy, fraud prevention, fund balance reserve. And so this has been coming up in conversations, at least within the city and with department heads. Investment policy guidance, low totem pole for me. Yes.
We don't have an investment account, do we?
No. Well, there's some that I'm learned that we can't touch, like the cemetery fund, I'm like, okay, that's just gonna sit there but again, low totem pole. Trustees of public funds, investment, again, I think similar but different, unless I'm misunderstanding that, but we still don't have investment funds. Reserve fund, okay. That one is also kind of similar thing where this has been an issue when we need to establish better reserves. And balanced budget policy guidance. So my barometer is telling me debt management, reserve fund, and maybe this balanced budget. But I don't know what other people are thinking. Yeah, Susie, what do you think?
I'd like the balanced budget as the priority, with the debt management obviously like as an offshoot to that. That's my.
I'm going to agree with Susie on that, just because at the moment we're talking about changing our budgeting manner, and we should probably make sure that this is the kind of thing we're operating under as we move into that. So I would agree.
Yeah, very topical. For sure. And I do see how those things are kind of interlinked and a priority focus. And then the reserve one, maybe I'll work with Chip and Carrie on that one, because that one's definitely for me needs to consider the department head spending and what they envision too. Like I think that one will succeed with their involvement and giving them a heads up for the budgeting. But I definitely hear that as far as the financial task force, that the budget and the debt management, balanced budget, and debt management is the priority.
Carter, I also think with regard to that reserve policy, I am still honestly confused when Chip talks about value. Something has a value in a fund, but it doesn't have any money in it. And it would be nice to figure out, really, to me, it's very important that you have money in the fund that you claim you have money in. And value is like an abstract concept. And I think if he's using those terms with the department heads as well, I mean, they might be brighter or more knowledgeable than I am about it, but we need a real definition of the meaning of value.
Yeah. Definitely hear you. And I think that's part of why the reserve piece is what you were getting at, the nut of which I'm saying we need to involve department heads. This is really important because this has clearly been misinterpreted and therefore misplanned. You know what I mean? Like we have not saved enough in certain buckets, and now people are in a pinch. And that doesn't feel great. I don't think they appreciate that.
Carter, we didn't just not save enough in certain buckets. We emptied buckets. We drained every bucket there was.
Okay, thank you for interrupting and clarifying that for me. Yes, we have misplanned. I think that is accurate, and I think that the statement that they're in a pinch is true, and that's why I think involving them and having them have some say in this is really important.
Right, but being really clear that invisible buckets is not a solution. The reality is important.
Understood. Understood.
Well, and I just want to say, I recognize that we're not talking about specifics here, but my head says one of the things that needs to be included in that reserve fund is, I think Chip or someone said this before, when you make your household budget, the question is when do you put the money in? Do you put it in at the beginning of the year? Do you put it in at the end of the year with whatever you have left over? You can, you know, if I say in my world, if I say I'm going to give 10% to something, I want to take that money out first to save it for that thing. But that may not be the way we do things here. And so we have to be really careful about things like that, in my opinion, is making sure, because if we happen to say we want to give, you know, $50,000 a year to the Vector truck, that's great. But if we end up at the end of the year and we don't have $50,000 because we've had extra snowfall or a major breakdown, we have to have policy in place that's going to deal with those things. So, because once you put it, according to this, what I just read, once you put money into the fund, it has to be used for what the voters have approved in the budget. So we have to be really careful. And it hasn't been. So, Pam said.
Okay. So balanced budget, policy and guidance. I'm going to create documents and assign them. So as in share them. I mean, I'll share them with everybody, but specifically, oops, new blank document. Okay.
I do want to say, while you're doing that, Carter,
Yeah.
model cash receipts, petty cash and return check policy. My personal opinion is likely Jim and Carrie, Stacy, you know, the clerk, those officers should really be, they know what's happening currently, and probably should be the ones to take a first look at those, at that particular one. So that will, you know, and then can come back to the team and say, yes, you know, that's what I see in that one.
Agreed. Okay. Christmas. All right. I'm going to share this. Who would like to, this is for the balanced budget one. Anybody want to take a quick overview, add comments? I've put this in the folder, but I could also share it with people and just email you if you'd like, if you need that sort of like help. If you have if this Google folder is lost in your emails, that's very relevant. But does anybody in particular feel driven to look over this policy and add initial comments?
I can do it.
Awesome. Okay, making sure you're on the list.
Yeah, I can read through it too. I'm not going to be at it, but we'll let Susie take the lead on that.
Okay, great. All right. I'm now, oops, I've got to go back. And then balanced budget. Where did you go? No. Oh, wait, we just did that one. We need debt management. This friend. Okay. All right.
One thought, Carter, I can, assuming I have access to these new ones, I can go in and just do a search and replace for select board, because that keeps throwing us off.
Select board and town to city. Those two things.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you read it and you just automatically replace the word, but
Yeah.
it's
Yes.
bothering John Minette. So
Okay. Do. Okay, you guys are just bouncing around with me while I do this, but this helps me just get it out the door. Financial task force draft 3v1. And this is going to, oh no. There's that little folder. There she is. Okay. Making sure this is in our financial task force. Oof. Okay. Okay. Just gonna take Travis out there. I'm gonna put Hal and myself on this one. Because when, oh, sugar. Hal. Are you serious? I have to do this all over again. Apologies, people. And no, that's good. And you're in. Nope. Okay. There you go. Okay. All right. Thanks for hanging in. I know quality content of whoever's watching this virtual meeting. Okay. Feeling good about policies and moving forward so that they are in conjunction with what we are doing as a city as we expand and look at our whole financial landscape. Okay. The new budget plan. I think Rick was kind of passing the mic to you, Carrie, on that.
Yeah.
And how can we help? What's going on and how can we help?
Yeah. So basically, I mean, as most of you saw on Monday night, the council was shown the new chart of accounts, like officially by Chip. All of the staff had already seen that, so that was like kind of a refresher for some of us. But he walked through that, and then I had, oh, there comes Rick. I had a call with Chip yesterday morning just to talk about when he plans, because basically that chart of accounts has been only living on like Chip's personal or like work computer, and it hasn't been living like in like a cloud-based location where like Stacy, that's not like what Stacy and Robin have been working from or anything like that. So I had a conversation with him yesterday morning, about like when to actually like make that switch. Stacy is out all week. She's back next Wednesday. So basically that means Robin is doing payroll next week and it's a holiday on Tuesday. And Robin is not usually the one doing payroll. So I was like, let's save her a bit of headache of doing the first payroll with the new chart of accounts. And plan to make that switch the second half of next week when Stacy's actually in office. So that being said, I asked Chip if I was still able to get like an export that I could work from with the new chart of accounts to start on the budgeting process without having that switch made. So he got me an Excel document that has budget to actual for FY21 through FY26. Yeah, so I went through that. I started going through that yesterday. I'm gonna have to spend more time on it today because it's a little bit of an overwhelming document, as you probably can imagine, even with the new chart of accounts. The good news is yesterday what I got done in there. So I think we've all seen his new like numbering system. So I set up some formulas in there that are basically like pulling out that information into their own columns. So like, if it's an expense, like it's pulling out that, and if it's like in the general fund, it's pulling out that. If it's like wage, like I have like columns set up for each kind of part of that. So more, because it's not second nature yet. Basically, like nobody knows this new code system well except for Chip. So that's set up, and then I went through and identified like all of the line items that are just like very much historical and haven't had any revenue or expense in them and since FY21. And that got us down to about 1,000 lines. I think it's about 800 something, a little bit less, but we were at about 2,000. So that felt like a good elimination. So I just went ahead and put zeros in all of those for FY27. And then I started adding some things like, like I know like the VLCT costs for FY27 already because they're very on top of it, obviously, and have already thought what we should expect to be paying. And then I, stuck in some numbers for most of the appropriations because they ask for the same amount of money every year for the most part. There's some that I'm like not like, I don't know, they're like NECA is a good example where like they have actually only asked for appropriations once in the past 5 years, as far as I could tell. So there's some that like should be discussed, but anyway, my plan is to try to get some time with Tom today or tomorrow and kind of start with him just because he's going to be taking some time off. So see what of his we can get done before he's out, basically.
You guys, I need to drop, unfortunately, for a work meeting that they scheduled. So I will go back and listen and just let me know what next steps on anything are. And I was very pleased with Chip's explanation of the chart of accounts. I think it's going to be great. So,
Hey, Lori. Awesome work. I feel like you have saved a forest, Carrie, by eliminating those unnecessary lines.
Not printed out anywhere, luckily.
Yes,
It's just all in Excel. But yeah, my plan is to see, like I need to go, I was starting to go through, like I know, like, the debt service. So I was trying to go through and like figure out what loans we've actually, because there are some that we've paid off. Don't need to be in FY27. So kind of, there's some comparisons to be done of like, is this the Ford Explorer loan that I believe it is? So that will continue today. And then, yeah, I'll start meeting with department heads. And like I said, Tom is kind of my priority at the moment because he has kind of if not the most complex, one of the most complex, and is about to go to town. So he feels like a good starting point to figure out what I'm kind of not thought of in this. Yeah.
Well, thank you. This is I think the benefit of now having a staff person to actually do this background work, understand it, work with department heads, to see if because we were I remember May just feeling like we kind of have a limit. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so thank you so much, Kitty, on that. Okay. So I'm hearing you're working through the budget. When can we help? Like when we're at your disposal, but I feel like for now we're gonna let you cook and department heads kind of form. And then when basically maybe right before they're supposed to present to council, we can like just have a little sneak peek and preview.
Yeah, I think it feels okay to say that like we could have something to look at next. I mean, I'm happy to go get it and pull it up, but it's just like there's so few numbers in there for FY27 at this point, and the ones that are in there are like not very interesting because they're just ones that I was like, this is a gimme. This is like not really something to debate on, like this group is going to ask for this amount of money for appropriations as they have every year. And like we can't really haggle with VLCT, so.
Can I chime in there for a second, Carter?
Absolutely.
So in our conversation yesterday with the department heads, the process that I think is going to emerge is that if all goes smoothly, we're hoping to present the administrative budget, which is to say anything in Frank's department that carries at my area would be, and maybe the clerk treasurer's office as well as the recreation department and the fire department, all on the 17th as individual budgets, not as part of the whole budget. And then on the 1st of December, we're hoping to do the police department and the public works departments, including water and sewer first looks, but we're going to focus mostly on general budget for the moment. And what would be ideal is, I honestly, here's what's realistic, I think, at this point. I think what would be ideal would be to be able to share each of those department budgets before we share them with the council. But I'm not sure we could pull it off to get those done by a week from today. It's what would be necessary to share with you all first. So I think what's more likely, and probably actually in the end more helpful, would be the department heads come in and present to council. There is a time for general questions, and then the following week, this team actually does a little bit deeper dive and tries to come up with any further questions that you want to articulate. And we could do that following the 17th and again following the 1st of December, so that when we come back on the 15th of December, the goal is to have the entire budget laid out, and it's already there. We've been through a first round of questions, and that's the version that the council would approve to kind of distribute publicly to the community in advance of the meeting on January 10th. I'm kind of making that up as I speak, Carrie. So if you think there's a better way to approach that, given our conversation with the department heads yesterday, I'd be happy to hear it.
No, I mean, I think that's fine. I think I will have something by next Wednesday. But it's probably not going to be ready next Wednesday for the 17th, if that makes sense. But I'm happy to share what we have basically next Wednesday. So I think we're aligned, Rick.
Great. Okay.
Awesome. No, I think that makes sense. One, with the timeline and like what's actually helpful and useful of our time here. But I also think that follow-up piece is crucial too. So I like that and noted. I'm excited. Yeah, it's November. We are in the middle of the budgeting season. Ooh, yeah. Okay. Well, great. That is the bulk of what I wanted to discuss today. Is there anything I'm missing, or people are saying, no, I don't feel good about this, or I don't know, assigned homework? Rick, you missed that. We assigned homework for 2 policies. We're going to look at the balanced budget and the debt management policies, since those are going to be very topical, very timely. And then the reserve fund, I want to have, when folks are done with their budgeting, but maybe in conjunction, looking at that plan for establishing actual, without, and Anne brought up, not just value in the accounts, making sure there's actual funds and dollars for this work that they need to do.
Hey,
Okay.
Carter, I thought of one other thing that we should at least mention, which is that part of the budgeting work is that Carrie and Chip are trying to work with the department heads to capital plan as well. Because that's actually a big piece of particularly the public works budget, is knowing how much money each year we got to set aside for public, for purchasing capital items, equipment, and that kind of stuff. So I just wanted you to know we're talking about that. It's not a separate item. It's going to get integrated into the budget process.
Oh no, I have frozen.
Did you catch what he said? Because if not, I can say.
I did.
Hear me now?
I'm frozen though. I don't know.
You're frozen, Carter, but we can hear you. I don't know if you can hear us.
Great. I can hear y'all.
You just look like you're really thinking hard.
Good.
It looks like you left town.
But yeah, as Rick was just saying, but it was kind of cutting out. We're concurrently working on a capital planning spreadsheet that the department heads are all adding their kind of best case scenario for them, worst case scenario for the budget amount, capital planning expenses. And then once those are all in, that'll be integrated into the budget.
Great, great. Okay, so maybe I'm thinking reserve funds, but actually it's capital planning that has been more amiss. But both, so anyways, I think that yes, this sounds great that the most involved or slash this has impacted Public Works Department the most. Oh,
Yeah.
now my whole everything is going. Okay. Oh my gosh, what? Okay, now I see you guys. Sorry, gang.
You're back.
Okay, we're back. All three of my screens just went white, and I was like, "Cool, this has never happened before. Everything I'm gonna lose."
Yeah, that's beyond
Okay.
the Wi-Fi issue.
I can't wait for broadband. I know we're at the very, very last, but my goodness, it's gonna be great. Okay. Yes, okay,
you
thank
seem-
you.
You seem to be talking about some new things that we should be thinking about. And I wanted to add into the mix something that is budgetary in this sense. In most of these interdepartmental exchanges now that we've been talking about, like if the Department of Public Works does something for recreation, recreation will bill. I'm sorry, Department of Public Works will bill recreation for the work, and recreation will agree. And there's a tension there in that you have two parties who have an interest. DPW has an interest in billing, and recreation has an interest in controlling that bill and making sure that's fair. When the exchanges occur between Department of Public Works and water and sewer, there is no one on the other side of it. The same person sits in charge of both sides. And in addition to that, really, water and sewer doesn't necessarily stay within its budget, because if expenses get very high, it decides that the rates need to be changed, and we raise those rates. We can raise those rates every quarter, basically, to meet the demands of water and sewer expenses. And because of those concepts, and the ease with which water and sewer could be billed for something, I think that we should look at what kinds of controls could exist in those exchanges or those billings of water and sewer for various things that DPW does for them. Because it's easy if you're over budget in the general fund to sort of find more expenses that could go into water and sewer legitimately, or just by changing the definitions of things. Anyway, I thought that either finance or both finance and water and sewer should start to consider that tension does not exist in that one area.
And, that makes some sense to me. It's certainly something I think we need to pay attention to. Feels like the way to do that would be for us to have some conversations with sister cities who are using the similar practice and ask them about what their best practices are.
How many sub-departments are in Public Works? So we have water and sewer. What are the other subs under the heading of Public Works? Do we, like with Public Works, and Tom is the head of that. Underneath Public Works, like water and sewer is clearly a separate entity.
Right.
Why don't we have a head of water and sewer?
We do.
Who is it? No, I mean,
it's
a
Tom.
separate head. Like, I understand what you're saying. So what actually defines Public Works in this scope?
Okay, so you're talking about kind of like grounds crew versus.
So is that like
water,
maintenance?
like
And then we have police
yeah.
are out of it, right? Police are not part of Public Works technically, right? They have their own
Mhm.
show. Fire has their own show. So under Public Works, if we were to pair off water and sewer as its own separate thing, although it by definition that is a public work, what other departments? So we have Yeah, grounds crew, road maintenance, like, do we have those labeled as anything, or are they just?
No, in fact, Susie, we're going the opposite direction in some ways right now because there has been a lot of division. There was something like 7 or 8 or even 9 different uh, parts of what was called public works, not including the water fund and the sewer fund.
Yeah,
And part of the budgeting consolidation process, the new chart of accounts, is to say, we are not trying to budget how much money we're going to spend and exactly how we're going to deploy staff to plow the roads every year, the way we've been doing it, right? We're going to say, no, we have this much staff, and depending on what's going on, it's a narrative report from the public works director to the city manager to say, this is how we have been deploying resources in the past month, and this is how we intend to deploy the resources in the coming month.
okay,
So I think the short answer to your question is, at the moment, there are really 3 separate funds. There's the Department of Public Works within the general fund, and there's the water fund, and there's the sewer fund. And Tom Bernier is as the director of Public Works is also automatically the director of the sewer and the water funds. That's
okay,
the current practice.
yeah,
And then he has foremen in each of those areas. Jason Herman in the sewer and wastewater treatment operation. Chris, can't remember Chris's last name, in the public works department. And I'm not sure who the official person is in water because I just haven't learned all the names correctly yet.
okay. So, yeah, sounds sort of like a conflict of interest, but,
Well, I'll just say, I don't think it's an uncommon conflict of interest. I think this is actually very common practice. And the real question is, if that Ann's asking is, what kind of guardrails do you put in place to
right,
try to manage a potential conflict as you bill from one department, from one fund to another fund? And, like I said, I think that's a legitimate question that we ought to be asking for some guidance on from places like St. Albans or St. Jay.
yeah. Thank you for the clarification. I think I'm picturing it better now.
All right. Any other questions or topics that we should mull over?
Carter, I have to get off, but I just want to make sure we're on top of, so you and Carrie will do a note to the bond bank and copy me on it to get that conversation started.
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks,
All right.
everybody.
Thanks, Rick.
Yeah. Bye, Rick. Okay, so I've got a little homework that I'd like to address pretty quickly. The model policies have been tasked with folks. And yeah, I will see you guys next Wednesday. Sound good? Give you guys 13 minutes back.
I have a quick comment about the auditor's presentation at their council, and it's from a citizen perspective. And if you noticed in the room, there were several citizens, and there was a lot of eye rolling for a lot of very good reasons. That presentation did not exactly show the citizen in a very good light, because what it showed was a lot of covering their asses and not giving clear information. They very neatly put the blame on the time at which Dolgin left, as opposed to looking back. And there was a lot clearly before. They never addressed the magical 200,000 that we know goes back several years. And they took no responsibility. That doesn't sit very well with citizens. And that might be something that the group would like to address. I have no idea if there's any intention of keeping that stellar group of auditors forever, but it might be something worth looking at. It was not warm and fuzzy. It was not honest.
I can speak to moving forward, and this task force this spring was looking, and I now have a VLCT model RFP for auditors. So that was an intention. We were just too little too late with the need of getting the audit with the approaching end of the fiscal year. So I think best practice, it is to switch auditors every 3 to 4 years. I don't exactly have a number, and I bet it depends on how complex your accounting is. But that is an intention to seek, or at least post it wide and work with and open it up to other agencies to help us through this process. Yeah, I mean, Susie, do you have any other opinions on how frequently one needs to change? I mean, yeah,
No, no.
yes. Definitely needs to be more than 20 years or something. Like, I don't remember what number the definitive number of years, but it sounds like as long as Bill's been there, he's been with Newport. So,
I
and
think
he's
that
not a
just
young buck.
the fact that they missed such a glaring thing disqualifies them anyway. So regardless, like they just should not be. And there are plenty of other municipalities that use other firms. So
Yeah. All right. Okay. Any other thoughts or comments or questions or hopes or dreams? Okay. All right. All right. I hope you guys have a good rest of your Wednesday and enjoy before we get snow. Apparently other
Yes.
parts of the state have already been kissed. So
thanks for your hard work.
yes, thanks y'all. See you next
Bye.
Wednesday. Bye.